what happens when you take um, a magically unpoppable balloon and just, force it into this terrifying existential crisis.
Right, which sounds so absurd when you say it out loud.
It really does. But today, we are looking at a children's book that, honestly, it accidentally wrote the ultimate manual on the fragility of the human ego.
It really is deceptive, too. Like, you open the book expecting these bright colors and simple rhymes, and then, well, before you know it, you're just confronting the illusion of invincibility.
Yeah, totally. So welcome to today's deep dive. I am thrilled you're joining us. And I mean you, right there, listening.
Exactly.
Because whether you're, say, a teacher catching up on early childhood education themes, or maybe someone prepping for a presentation on team dynamics, or honestly, if you're just insanely curious about narrative structure and the hidden psychology in the stuff we read to our kids, this deep dive is for you.
We have this surprisingly dense single source to work from today, even though it's, disguised as a very light one.
Right. Our mission today centers on a children's story titled Bouncy and the Great Birthday Rescue, alongside the thematic summaries and learning objectives that the authors provided.
Which is such a fun contrast.
It is. We're going to take what looks like a whimsical Sunday morning read about a shiny rainbow balloon and just extract its profound insights into vulnerability, the mechanics of teamwork, and, well, the dangerous myth of going it alone.
It's just the perfect text to dissect because it maps out human behavioral patterns using the safest, most accessible medium possible.
Okay, let's unpack this. So to get us grounded, let's look at the premise. The story opens on a bright Saturday morning.
Classic setup.
Right, and a young girl named Bella is just frantically decorating her house for a massive birthday party.
I mean, she is going all out.
She really is. She's tying balloons to everything, chairs, tables, even the front mailbox. And right in the middle of all this festive chaos, we meet Bouncy.
Bouncy the balloon.
Yes, Bouncy is a talking, shiny, rainbow-colored balloon.
And, by making him a talking balloon, the story establishes this suspension of disbelief instantly.
Right.
But it uses that magical realism to highlight a very, very familiar psychological state.
Okay, because the narrative doesn't waste any time at all. It moves straight from the party prep into establishing Bouncy's, his primary character trait.
Which is his absolute refusal to break under pressure.
Exactly. The moment he's introduced, he basically announces to the entire yard, "I'm not popping today."
It's so bold.
And then he follows it up with, "I plan to stay perfectly puffed forever."
Perfectly puffed forever. I mean,
Yeah.
the phrasing there is just so specific.
Right.
But what's crucial is what happens right after he says it. The environment just immediately challenges his bravado, like a blue balloon pops nearby.
Oh, yeah.
Then two more pop in quick succession. So the fragility of his peers is just on full display.
Right, and how does he react? Because he doesn't show empathy.
No, not at all.
The text says Bouncy just floats a little higher and says, "See? Not me."
Just totally dismissive.
It's wild. It reminds me of that one friend or coworker who just refuses to ever show a crack in their armor.
Oh, absolutely.
The chronic perfectionist who insists on staying perfectly puffed while everyone else is like visibly struggling or popping under the stress of deadlines.
Right, the one who just breezes past the chaos.
Yeah. But I have to push back on this a bit with you. When I read that scene, I just saw pure, unfiltered arrogance. Like he thinks he's inherently better than the blue balloons. Do you see it that way?
I actually, I read it entirely differently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think it's arrogance at all. I think it's a frantic defense mechanism.
Wait, really? You think he's just like whistling past the graveyard?
Well, think about the context here. He is literally watching his peers perish. Pop, pop, pop.
That's true.
For a balloon, a pop is the end of existence. So his declaration that he's going to stay perfectly puffed forever, it isn't a statement of superiority.
Then what is it?
It's an attempt to exert control over a terrifying reality. Like, if he floats higher and separates himself, he doesn't have to confront the fact that he's made of the exact same fragile material as the balloons that just died.
Oh, wow. Okay, when you frame it as a defense mechanism, the tests that follow make so much more sense.
They really do.
Because the universe just immediately puts his supposed invincibility to the test. First, a porcupine waddles by and accidentally pokes him with a tiny quill.
Right, which should be game over.
Should be. But nothing happens. Then a monkey gently taps him with a banana, still perfectly puffed.
Yep.
And finally, a playful puppy uses him as an actual trampoline. And Bouncy just giggles and says,
Oh,
that
yeah.
tickles.
What's fascinating here is how the narrative systematically categorizes these threats to build up his ego.
Categorizes them. How so?
Well, it isn't just random danger, right? The author escalates the time of pressure.
Okay, I'm with you.
So the porcupine quill is an acute, sharp, piercing threat. It's like a sudden crisis. Then the monkey's banana is this blunt, absurd, confusing daily friction.
That makes sense.
And finally, the puppy is a dynamic, heavy, prolonged stressor.
So he literally survives the whole spectrum of physical trauma.
Exactly. And because he survives all three without a single scratch, he internalizes a false lesson.
He believes his own hype.
Yes. He builds this psychological armor based on the idea that because he survived these specific, visible threats, he is immune to everything.
Right.
It's the architecture of an isolated ego. He defines his entire worth by his capacity to withstand direct pressure.
And that is just such a dangerous way to define yourself.
Oh, incredibly dangerous.
Because if your only value is that you never break, you isolate yourself from anyone who does. But the story brilliantly exposes the flaw in that architecture.
It really pulls the rug out.
It does. We've established that Bouncy is immune to direct hits. You can poke him, you can jump on him. But his downfall has absolutely nothing to do with being punctured.
No, it comes from an entirely different axis of vulnerability.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting to me. A sudden gust of wind sweeps through the yard.
Just out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Bouncy, because he is a balloon, is swept up into the sky. He drifts over the rooftops, past the clouds, and finally gets hopelessly tangled in the high branches of a massive oak tree.
And his attitude completely shatters.
Completely.
Right.
The balloon that was just like laughing off a puppy jumping on him is suddenly crying out, "Help!"
Yeah, the bravado is gone.
It's a profound irony. The very thing that makes him special, his buoyancy, his ability to float above the rest, is the exact mechanism of his downfall.
This raises an important question about how we engineer our lives, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely.
I mean, Bouncy spent all his energy proving he was resilient against known physical threats. He was completely ready for the porcupine.
Right, he had that handled.
But the wind represents an uncontrollable variable. It is an environmental shift.
It's the classic black swan event. It's the thing you didn't even know you had to prep for.
Precisely. And this mirrors adult life so accurately.
How so?
Well, we hyperfixate on protecting ourselves from obvious threats, right? We build up savings accounts to fight financial porcupines, or we put up emotional walls to handle blunt criticisms at work.
Yeah, we prepare for the things we can see.
Exactly. But true vulnerability often doesn't come from a direct attack on our weaknesses. It comes when a structural shift in our environment turns our greatest strength into a fatal flaw.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
His extreme lightness, the thing that allowed him to literally elevate himself above the popping balloons, left him entirely at the mercy of the wind.
Right. If he had been a heavy, ordinary object, the wind wouldn't have moved him an inch.
So by being special, he was uniquely vulnerable to this specific environmental shift.
And notice the immediate psychological shift the wind forces on him. Up until this moment, his locus of control was entirely internal.
Right. It was all, I am unpoppable. I decide my fate.
Exactly. But the moment he is swept up, he loses all agency. He transitions violently from absolute independence to total dependence.
He has no choice but to cry out for help.
Right. Which forces the narrative to leave his internal ego and look outward.
Which pivots us down to the ground, to the children at the party. And this is where the thematic summaries provided in our source material really come to life.
Oh, this part is brilliant.
Because we don't just get a magical rescue where an adult comes with a ladder. We get this detailed mechanical look at how a group solves a problem when their individual power just isn't enough.
This sequence is the complete antithesis of Bouncy's worldview. Bouncy represents the myth of the isolated, unbreakable individual.
And the children.
The children represent the reality of the collective.
So let's break down exactly how they do this, because they don't panic. Bella sees him and cries out, "Our birthday balloon."
Which is key. She immediately establishes shared stakes.
Right. It's not just a balloon, it's their balloon.
Exactly.
Then they do something really interesting. They stop and verbally triage the situation. Like one kid says, "We can't climb that high." Another notes, "The ladder is too short."
They are bypassing the emotional distress and objectively mapping out their physical constraints.
Right. They're outlining the negative space of the problem.
Yeah, by quickly agreeing on what won't work, they prevent wasted energy.
And once they establish those boundaries, Bella looks around at the available resources. She grabs the longest jump rope from the yard games.
Okay.
They tie it to the handle of a plastic toy bucket. Then they gently toss the bucket over the oak branch that Bouncy is stuck in.
A little makeshift engineer.
Exactly. They grab the rope, count together, 1, 2, 3, and they all pull downward in unison. And the heavy branch bends just enough for Bouncy to wiggle free.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text explicitly lists creative problem solving and counting together as the core learning outcomes here.
Which sounds very standard for a kid's book.
It does, but the psychology beneath those outcomes is what's truly compelling.
Well, I have to ask you about the counting.
Yeah.
Because they take completely unrelated objects, a jump rope and a toy bucket, and essentially engineer a makeshift pulley system. But the tools themselves wouldn't move that branch. Is the real magic in this story actually the counting?
Absolutely. The counting is the true mechanism of the rescue.
What do you mean?
Think about the physics and the sociology of a 1, 2, 3 count. If 5 children pull on a heavy oak branch at slightly different times, their individual force is dispersed.
Right, they'd just be tugging aimlessly.
Exactly. The branch won't bend, but the count acts as a synchronizing agent.
Oh,
It allows multiple weak individuals to compound their physical force into a single unified action.
so it's like a multiplier of human capability.
Exactly. The jump rope and the bucket are just tools to transfer energy. The counting is what actually creates the energy.
That's a great way to put it.
It proves that effective teamwork isn't just about sharing a burden so it feels lighter. It is fundamentally about multiplying capability so you can achieve something that is biologically impossible for one person to do alone.
Which perfectly contrasts with Bouncy's earlier belief. Like, Bouncy thought capability meant having thick enough skin to survive a porcupine. But the kids prove that true capability is the social elasticity to synchronize with others.
And that contrast is exactly why getting stuck in the tree was the necessary catalyst for the story's resolution.
So Bouncy wiggles free, he floats safely down to the ground, cheering, "Whee!"
The physical crisis is averted.
Right. But the thematic crisis, his entire worldview, has been shattered.
Totally dismantled.
When he lands, he looks at the kids and admits, I guess even balloons need a little help sometimes.
It's a massive concession for a character who started the day claiming he would be perfectly puffed forever.
It really is.
Yeah.
So Bella ties his string safely to the birthday cake table, and the text describes this really idyllic evening. Games, cake, lemonade.
It's lovely.
Yeah, but the emotional climax happens as the sun sets. Bouncy is looking around at the party and the kids who saved him, and he has this final realization.
The big takeaway.
Right. He says, being special isn't about never needing help. It's about sharing happy moments with your friends.
It is a complete paradigm shift.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Let's apply this. If the wind had never blown, if Bouncy had just stayed in the yard, deflecting bananas and puppies.
Right, just avoiding the daily frictions.
Yeah, he would have lived his whole life believing his worth was derived entirely from his invulnerability. He would have been a monument to his own ego.
A very lonely monument.
Exactly. Was losing his locus of control actually the best thing that could have happened to him?
Without question. If he hadn't been swept away, he would have remained physically intact but completely emotionally isolated.
Because he'd never need anyone.
Right. The core theme of the source text isn't just that teamwork is nice. The underlying lesson is that invulnerability is a lonely trap.
Because if you never need anyone, you never connect with anyone.
Right. By getting stuck, Bouncy was forced into vulnerability. He was forced to witness the power of a synchronized community. And through that experience, he fundamentally redefines what it means to be special. At the beginning of the book, special meant being separate.
It meant floating higher than the pop balloons and saying, not me.
Exactly. It meant isolation.
Yeah.
But by the sunset, his definition of special has transformed. Special now means integration.
Oh, I love that. Integration.
It means being tied to the table, anchored to the ground by his community, sharing the joy of the party. True strength shifted from the rigidity of his ego to the elasticity of his social connections.
That is just a phenomenal way to look at it. We have unpacked a story about a shiny rainbow balloon and found a really poignant mirror for the human condition.
It's surprisingly deep.
It really is. We've explored how surviving daily frictions can build a dangerous illusion of ego, how our greatest strengths can leave us uniquely vulnerable to unpredictable environmental shifts, and, well, how true problem-solving requires the synchronized force of a community.
It's a vital reminder that no matter how perfectly puffed you believe you are, you cannot engineer a life free of wind.
Nope.
Eventually, you are going to get tangled in a branch.
And when you do, your survival won't depend on how thick your armor is. It will depend on whether you know how to call out to the people on the grind who have jump ropes and toy buckets. So
Exactly.
for you listening right now, the next time you feel that heavy internal pressure to be the one who never breaks, the one who handles every sharp quill and heavy puppy completely on your own, I want you to remember Bouncy.
That's great advice.
Remember that vulnerability isn't a failure of your resilience. It is the prerequisite for connection.
It is entirely acceptable to admit that the ladder is too short.
I love that. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to chew on.
Oh, here we go.
Something that builds off the text, even though it happens after the final page. The story ends beautifully. Bouncy is safely anchored to the cake table.
He understands friendship.
Right. He's sharing a happy moment. But the magical reality of his existence hasn't actually changed. He is still an unpoppable balloon.
The physical constraints remain even if the mindset shifted.
Exactly. So what happens to Bouncy after the party is over?
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. In a week or a month, when all the other normal balloons eventually lose their helium, wither away, and pop, Bouncy will still be there, perfectly puffed.
He's immortal, basically.
So does his eternal resilience eventually become a lonely burden all over again? Or does his newly found understanding of teamwork and connection give him a permanent purpose? Perhaps as a lifelong companion to Bella, navigating the wind together.
Wow. That changes everything.
It's definitely something for you to ponder long after this deep dive ends.
Until next time.